candid discussions in regards to the very same news and so much so. And there is a standoff in Parliament over the Constitution Amendment Bill 2020, which is to be tabled on the 1st of April for debate. That is after Speaker Justin Muturi granted the Joint National and Senate Justice and Legal Affairs Committees to 10 more days to finalize this report. JLAC National Assembly Chairman, that is Muturi Kigano, had requested for an unspecified period of additional time, that is to seek expert advisory on contentious issues that surfaced during a public participation. Some members, however, opposed to the request, questioning just why the committee needed to consult, yet they had no room to make changes on the popular initiative report. Now, a clash is looming between the two houses after temporary Senate Speaker Isaac Mwaura granted the Senate committee about 14 days to finalize on this particular report. And so we'll be looking at this. We'll be having members of Parliament joining us later on the broadcast. They tell us what this would mean, whether it is necessary for them to be awarded that aspect of, making adjustments in regards to the same. And will that be a violation of the Constitution as it stands? So keep sending in your comments in regards to the same. The hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela at TV47KA. And let's get to hear what you have to say as to this. We have also a lot of other things that are lined up for you. We'll be going into the kitchen. It is Testy Wednesday, and we have prepared something nice for you. Actually, 2-3 things that are nice for you. Call them desserts. So make sure that you keep it right here and you learn some of this art because, well, it is necessary and you will thank me for that. And equally, even as students go back home, as of course examinations are continuing in different parts of the country, realize that parents are a bit skeptical and worried of just how they are to handle their girls, how they are to handle their boys. And so we'll be looking at that aspect of teenage pregnancies, the numbers on the rise, some of the students going to the exam room, while pregnant, some right after giving birth. So, it's pretty much an unfortunate occurrence in the country, but we say, they deserve this space. And even as we give them this space, it is also important that we speak of how we can curb this ill of the society or in the society. So before we get to all that, let's briefly look at the papers, the Standard newspaper, the Daily Nation, and the People Daily. This is the People Daily, and the biggest story is on the People Daily. KQ posts historic 36.2 billion losses. A national carrier puts the blame on the pandemic that saw its annual turnover drop by about 58.2%. There's so much that plays out in regards to this. The conversation of whether it should be deprivatized is also something that has been on the table for quite a while. And we just ask ourselves, why is it that the national carrier, as historic, as instrumental in terms of travel as it is, there's still so much that is being registered in terms of losses. What is happening therein is what we'll be looking at, and what is being discussed as at now. Another story altogether. Desperate Kenyans in mad rush for vaccine. Well, just what equates this, or just what justifies the fact that you refer to them as desperate. But then again, yes, everyone needs to have that aspect of, good life, healthy life for that matter. And so as, of course, the vaccines are in the country, a majority of people are likely to get this. But then again, as given by, in terms of guidelines, as given by the Ministry of Health, there are a couple of people who will be given that upper hand in terms of getting this. Well, 58 and above, persons with underlying conditions, frontline workers, essential service caregivers, and of course we'll be looking at all these people who are trying to get a hold of the vaccine. Whereas the injection was prioritized for frontline workers, persons not in this category are actually queuing out there to receive this jab. Remember, at some point in time also, the Ministry of Health saying that, these people should not get this because it is important that the categories that have been mentioned or had been mentioned earlier on are able to be catered for before the other Kenyans are to get the vaccine. Well, we'll be following up on this. We have our reporters who constantly, go on ground to get these details. The likes of Zain, that is Zainab Mohammed, they are always constantly following up on this to keep you up to tabs as to the same. If you're able to access the job, kindly take advantage of the same, as has been declared or has been said by the Ministry of Health. To amend or not the big BBI split, what will be forming our conversation this morning, that is on the political segment, legal puzzle, where, as some say, the House has the power or has powers to make changes to the bill that seeks to make the radical constitutional reforms. Others argue Parliament's role is purely ceremonial after MCAs endorsed the document. A story captured on page 4, and like I've said, will be forming the basis of our conversation, so we'll not delve deep into looking at what has been captured on the papers as to the same. Zanzibar bids farewell to fallen Magufuli ahead of Friday burial. We've been following up on this, keeping you up to speed in regards to the same, even as we continue to condole with the people of Tanzania, the family of Magufuli, and the African fraternity at large. Thousands and thousands attended the funeral services, and it's really unfortunate that some actually had to lose their life just as they were trying to showcase the love that they had for the gallant son of Africa. Kericho DG Kikwai laid to rest at home in Cape Leon. And with constant calls that we should continue to abide by the measures provided for by the Ministry of Health, the World Health Organization, in regards to taming the virus. May her soul rest in eternal peace. And crisis looms as vaccines lie idle. That is also another one. Amidst a rise in infections and deaths and lack of preparedness in counties, Kenya continues to dither in its vaccine rollout with only 40,000 of an initial batch of 1 million doses taken. It is a case of science skepticism and inefficient distribution system, deliberate subversion of the same, negligence or indifference. These are the questions that are being asked. A story captured on page 10 and 11 in regards to the dissemination of the vaccines to different parts of the counties or the country, and just how many people are able to access the same. And while you could say that, well, it should be administered to individuals that have been mentioned that should be given priority, then, well, if about 40,000 of them only have received this, then it means it should be open also for the rest of the Kenyans. Another story here right at the top, and Kenya orders closure of camps. The government has ordered the closure of the massive Dadaab and Kakuma refugee camps, which collectively host over about 500,000 people within the next 2 weeks. And Kenya is citing national security threats posed by some of the refugees, including past terrorist attacks that have been linked to accomplices of the Somali-based Al-Shabaab militants within the camps. And well, this is probably going to raise a lot of controversy, and we wait to see how the rest of the people will deal with this, will handle this, the United Nations community also, how it is going to deal with this. And as has been captured on page 7, there are lots of details as to the same. And the biggest question then, how do we repatriate these individuals to their respective countries, and whether they're going to receive this well? Remember, 500,000 people, not a small number. What is the wisdom behind this? What has informed this even as we still have that level of animosity that has culminated out of the maritime border dispute that sits between Kenya and Somalia? Away from that particular story on matters politics, yes, inside new plot to block the DP, that is William Ruto. Deputy President William Ruto is facing a fresh political onslaught from pro-BBI leaders keen to lock him out of their regions in the 2022 succession race. That is in a plan that has roped in a number of governors. The strategy was firmed up in a meeting between party leaders and President Kenyatta. That is last week. A story captured on page 4, something that will not augur well with the DP himself and his foot soldiers, his supporters too, and whether this will work or is instrumental in terms of stopping his bid is equally a question of wait and see. We'll briefly touch on that later on as we proceed with the broadcast. Other stories, 11-year union was not a marriage, woman tells court. Well, a woman who lived with a man for about 11 years in a union blessed with 4 children told court that she never was his wife, and the widow is in court to prove legitimacy of her marriage to a tycoon she met later. That is quite interesting, so to speak. A story captured on page 8. Well, the sword should cut across, as they would say. Sometimes they say, I mean, you need to legalize this. You need to find a formal document to probably show whether indeed you are married to a certain individual or not. And in this case, it's something that is indeed quite debatable and maybe justified for that matter. National news, a surrogacy deal gone awry, and man says he paid a center about 2.9 million in the hope of becoming a father, but got a rude shock after 9 months. Quite a sad story there, as captured on page 3 extensively of the Daily Nation. And so we'll be looking at this and much more. That is later on as we proceed. But importantly, we also take a look at what has been captured or what is happening on the roads briefly. And the roads do not look ugly this morning. Muthaiga, this is somewhere around Muthaiga. See how it goes. And right from the central beat of the city, there are places that would probably cause alarm. Let's go to this side. This is Juja Road. Interestingly, the map takes us to Juja Road this morning. So we'll start from Juja Road there. And here we go. Juja Road does not look so bad this morning. This is to and from the city, that is to and from town. As you try and get your way there, you realize that Juja Road does not look as bad. And here we are. But then again, on this other side, after Moi Air Base, where you come to connect to Outer Ring Road. And here is Outer Ring Road. Let's look how it is like. And the Outer Ring Road is not looking so bad this morning. To and from Allsops, you need not to worry if you're taking Outer Ring, apart from these small bits around Tumaini Estate, where you find some tenets of traffic, but it is not bad. Going all the way down to Embakasi, and this is Airport Road. The Airport Road, sometimes you'll find some tenets of traffic, but it's not as bad until this point where you come to connect to Mombasa Road. Well, Mombasa Road is always trafficked in most occasions, or in numerous times, yeah. So Mombasa Road is there. From this bit down Cabanas, as you can see, after connecting from Embakasi, that is the Airport Road, you realize that there's so much traffic going all the way to Imara Daima and down, and then it eases up. There's some bit of roadworks happening down there, maybe informing that traffic, and then it eases up as you get to connect to this other side, and you also connect to the southern bypass on this other side. You find some tenets of traffic there as you get to the junction and the roundabouts, and you realize that the southern bypass is not bad this morning. But proceeding down, as you get to this side of the Nyayo National Stadium, you find tenets of traffic there as you proceed down. And I mean, you come to connect around here to Lusaka Road. Yes, Lusaka Road is evidently not looking bad this morning. And on this side, Bunyala Road is also not bad this morning. Sometimes there's so much traffic around there. And then that takes us to this other side, where you get to connect to Langata Road and the likes of Mbagathi Way. Mbagathi Way is right here, all the way to the Kenyatta National Hospital. It is looking all good down. Langata Road is also not bad to and from town. This is Langata Road, evidently not looking so bad, and so you need not to worry if you're taking that direction. So this morning, the roads are not so bad. This is the southern bypass. The southern bypass is quite of an ease this morning, not much traffic, actually zero traffic for that matter. And this is Ngong Road to and from town. You can see that Ngong Road is not as bad, and you realize there's just some tenets of traffic, pretty much minimal, or so to speak. That would probably get you a bit delayed as you're headed to town, but it is not looking all bad. And going all the way down, this is somewhere around Uhuru Park. As you can see, as you get to the city, taking Ngong Road, you need not to worry. This is the size of Valley Road, Agwings Kodhek, not bad. State House Road is also not looking so bad. This is Kenyatta Avenue around Nyayo House there. It is pretty much of an ease this morning. And this size of Lavington, Kileleshwa, Lavington Road, not bad. James Gishuru is here, pretty much of an ease this morning. Same applies to Gitanga Road. So I find some tenets of traffic, but Gitanga Road is also moving all good, or like Tok Tok Road, Kikambala, and dropping you down all the way to this other side. Yes, let's take Waiyaki Way. Waiyaki Way, as you get to connect to James Gishuru, evidently not looking so bad. This is the ABC place where you get that connection, and you can tell that Waiyaki Way is also much of an ease until you get to this bit of University of Nairobi, and it's so much easy if you're taking these directions. Parklands, where we are, is also not looking so bad this morning. This sides of Ngara, as you can see, Muranga Road is here, not much of traffic. On this other side, some tenets of traffic from Thika Road. Yes, Thika Road, you will always expect some level of traffic, especially these sides of Pangani, as you connect from Muthaiga Road, as you connect from Kiambu Road, and you get to find your way to the city, you will always find some bit of traffic there, as you can see. But then looking down at this bit of Thika Road is also not looking so bad this morning around drive-in. Some tenets of traffic, not as bad. Also, these sides where you find yourself around the Garden City is where you can find some tenets of traffic, but not as heavy as we are used to. And so that means if you're taking Thika Road this morning, no cause for alarm. Mirema Road, also not so bad. The likes of Kamiti Road, also not looking so bad. And so I think on that note, I have given you more the necessary updates if you're taking the roads. Evidently, no cause for alarm. Whatever it is that is happening, wherever you are, if you're watching us from Amatatu, if you're watching us while you're traveling to the office, it is important that you keep us up to speed as to what is happening on the roads, so that we can also enlighten some of us who've not stepped out of the house just yet. It is important that we get this. And that's it on the roads. Yes, let's take a look at what we expect in the course of the day. That should be on the daily diary that has been prepared by my team. I am told it's being fixed, and so we'll keep you up to tabs in regards to the same. First, let's look at what my team has prepared. And as they would say, there is no space of admission in a number of hospitals. Well, this is according to the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists, and Dentists Union. So dire is the situation that patients arriving in hospitals have to literally wait for the occupants to die to find space. Now, this is as a result of the third wave of COVID-19 that continues to spread in the country.
The third wave of COVID-19 continues to spread like bushfire across the country, causing pain, anguish and anxiety. In recent weeks, there has been an increase in the number of infections as well as deaths reported in the country. Now, the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union admits that there is no space for admitting more patients in some hospitals. This also applies in the intensive care unit. So bad is the situation that those bringing in patients have to wait for the occupants of the beds to either recover or die for them to find space. Currently, the number of doctors admitted in hospitals is 10.
We find ourselves as a country 1 year into the pandemic at a tipping point. And I'm saying a tipping point because we've had 1 year to make sure that we prepare our healthcare system adequately. So 1 year down the line, in a third wave, there's an increase in the number of cases, increase in the number of mortalities. And as the healthcare workers and as the doctors of this country, we are concerned about this and the general state of laxity in adherence to the COVID-19 preventive measures.
The rising numbers of COVID-19 cases have also seen a high demand of oxygen by patients in our facilities. Majority of our county referral hospitals have built, some are building, their own oxygen generating plants. But even as we plan for oxygen capacity enhancement in our facilities, people need to ensure that they avoid any activities that might expose them to the virus. Let us not have to experiment with our oxygen capacity when we can avoid it.
The country also lacks enough doctors and nurses to attend to patients.
The shortages in the country and in the counties are real. The infection is straining the workforce. The fact that the terms and conditions are not yet fully addressed The Ministry of Health last year hired 235 doctors to work in isolation and treatment centers across the country. These contracts, they were hired on contracts. The contracts expired in the month of February. And out of that number of 235, we only have 156 currently active. Most of them, the 60 or so, found better options and left the service. So we are at a point where our COVID situation is that we need as many doctors in the counties as possible.
Today, 1,127 people have tested positive for COVID-19 out of a sample of 5,393 tested in the last 24 hours. The country has a positivity rate of 22.1% as the number of those who have died from COVID-19 is at 25. Nairobi County is leading in the number of infections, which is at 575, followed by Nakuru with 99 infections, then Kiambu, Machakos, Kisumu and Uasin Gishu. Over 1,000 COVID-19 patients are presently admitted in hospitals across the country.
Output is on the website and on
KMPDU now wants the Ministry of Health to employ more doctors. Sharon Baranga, TV 47.
We'll come back later to matters health, but to this one, Kenya's flag carrier, the Kenya Airways, recorded about 36.2 billion shillings lost last year, its biggest loss ever in a financial year. In a statement, the airline revealed that its revenue shrunk by nearly 60% between January and December 2020, attributing the dip in the revenue to disruptions by the COVID-19 pandemic to the air travels sector. David Muthoka reports.
The national carrier Kenya Airways has sunk further in the red after recording its biggest loss in a financial year of 36.2 billion shillings between January and December last year. This is nearly 3 times the loss it suffered in 2019, when the airline had recorded 12.9 billion shillings in losses. In a statement released earlier Tuesday, the national flag carrier also revealed that its revenue shrunk by nearly 60% from 128.3 billion shillings in 2019 to 52.8 billion shillings in 2020, citing disruptions by the COVID-19 pandemic. KQ passenger numbers too reduced by 65.7% from 5.2 million last year but 1 to 1.8 million last year, a move that saw the carrier's customer revenue drop to 33.7 billion shillings from 100.3 billion shillings in 2019. The record loss comes amid a move by the national government to advance a 10 billion shillings package last year to Kenya Airways as a bailout after planes were grounded between April and August last year to curb the spread of the coronavirus disease. The dismal figures could now see the nationalization of the carrier run into new turbulence. The decision to deprivatize Kenya Airways follows a decline in the company's profit in the past 5 years beginning in 2015, where the company recorded a loss of 25.7 billion shillings. The following year, the airline's profits nosedived again to 26.2 billion shillings before KQ recorded another loss of 6.4 billion shillings in 2017. In 2018, the company was not out of the woods, recording a loss of 7.5 billion shillings. In its statement on Tuesday, KQ has warned that the losses could be here to stay, hinting that it could take at least 4 years before breaking even. David Muthoka, TV 47.
Well, all right, we should be having our constant look in regards to that, and we'll be bringing specialists so that they can keep us up to tabs as to what really informs this failure, in as much as we all agree that the situation has been tough after COVID-19. But away from that, following the surge in daily COVID-19 infections, the Interfaith Council has reiterated the need for a strict adherence to the stipulated COVID-19 containment measures. The Interfaith Council wants religious leaders to ensure their congregants adhere to the laid out measures strictly, and churches too are reverting to online services as COVID-19 infections and deaths surge.
Following an unprecedented surge in COVID-19 infections coming in the backdrop of the third wave of the virus, places of worship are now rethinking in-person services and alternatively reverting back to online services. New Life Seventh-day Adventist Church, in a notice to its members, all church services including midweek events will continue, but online. Only Sabbath programs and midweek facilitators will be allowed to access church premises on Sabbath. The Interfaith Council is now calling for strict compliance in general worship gatherings in all places of worship. All worshippers must sanitize before and after the worship service. Religious leaders have been asked to ensure all their congregants are masked throughout the worship service, as well as ensuring only 1/3 of the capacity of the place of worship is allowed in.
Watu wakae na wamepangwa wakiwa na social distancing, ile tumeambiwa na wakumbusho mara kwa mara, lakini sana tukazie, na tunaomba viongozi wote wa ibada hizo wakumbushe watu kuvaa barakoa. Yoyote asiye na barakoa asiruhusiwe kuingia katika mazishi, na kuwe na watu wanauza hizo barakoa ili wote wakitaka wanaweza kununua na kuzivaa. Sote tukae na barakoa katika ibada hizo, katika mazishi.
Citizens above 65 years of age and those living with pre-existing conditions have been requested to remain home and follow worship services online. All services are expected not to go beyond 2 hours. Processions and night vigils have been banned as the holy month of Ramadan and Easter approaches. Funeral attendance has been capped at 100 people, with religious leaders being tasked with the responsibility of ensuring compliance to all COVID-19 containment measures are adhered to.
During the forthcoming weeks, when several faith traditions have solemn periods, Easter, Holy Week, Ramadan, all gatherings must adhere to these guidelines, and no processions or night vigil services are to be allowed.
All attendees are required to be masked, no serving of food, and only close family members will be allowed at the gravesite. Mwangi Maina, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, more than 28,000 prison services staff members are set to receive COVID-19 jabs as part of the ongoing vaccination campaign for all frontline workers. The vaccination exercise was launched, that is, yesterday at the prison service headquarters in Nairobi, as Laban Lekishon now reports.
Speaking during the launch of COVID-19 vaccination for prison service staff members at the headquarters in Nairobi, Commissioner for Prisons Service Wycliffe Ogalo called on all his staff members to accept the vaccine as frontline workers, saying the government has assured its safety. He said he has shown the way by getting vaccinated, explaining that the exercise will be conducted by the department's health officers.
Today, we are grateful to have received from the Ministry of Health COVID-19 vaccines to vaccinate Kenya Prisons Service personnel country-wide. So to fast-track the process, I am pleased to note that the same will be supervised and administered by our healthcare personnel in respective prison stations countrywide. I urge all my personnel to take part in the immunization process.
The chair of the COVID-19 vaccine task force, Willis Akwale, dismissed claims that the vaccine is unsafe. Akwale added that the government is keen on giving quality vaccination, saying experts have confirmed that there is no basis to claims about efficacy of the AstraZeneca vaccine.
Mumeona hata wiki jana shirika la afya duniani WHO, shirika la madawa kule Europa zimesema kwamba yale madai ya kwamba damu inaweza gandana kwenye mwili hayana msingi kisayansi. Walifuatilia na wangeweza kudhibitisha hayo. Jana tumechanja watu 8,000 na nafikiri leo hata tutapata zaidi, Kufikia mwisho wa wiki hii, labda kila siku tutakuwa tunachanja watu 10,000, na kufikia wiki ijayo ambapo tunaenda kufungua vituo vingine vingi, watu watakuwa wanapata chanjo kwa urahisi pale wako.
Meanwhile, more than 100 security officers in Isiolo got their vaccine today. Isiolo County Commissioner Herman Shambi and Area Police Commander Joseph Kigen led the officers in taking the vaccine, stressing that the vaccine is safe.
Kirungo sindano pale unazaona tumefunga macho, si uchungu. Tunaisikia vile inaingia, na wakati mwingine tunachanganya na maombi. Tunaona tunafunga macho, lakini watu wasikuwe na hofu ama na shaka ati ni uchungu, hapana. Mimi nimepata yangu, county commander amepata yake, county CP commander amepata yake, county prisons commander amepata yake, na wanazidi
The third wave of coronavirus has continued to hit even harder as days go by. Grace Josephine, TV47.
Well, what will inform the basis of our conversation this morning, the Constitutional Amendment Bill 2020 has faced a hurdle in Parliament following a standoff within the BBI task force. Now, the bill will now be debated in the House on the 1st of April after the Joint Legal Affairs Committee requested for more time, as Elizabeth Mutuko tells us.
I therefore order that the bill, the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020, be on the order paper for second reading on 1st of April.
The move by the Speaker of the National Assembly to reschedule the debate on Constitutional Amendment Bill 2020 came after the Joint Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs Committee requested for an extension of time. Committee co-chair Muturi Kigano had tabled the request for an extension to allow the committee look into some of the issues raised during the public participation.
The committee therefore resolved that a subcommittee of the Joint Committee be established comprising of the following members.
Mr. Speaker, this idea of getting experts is something has caught me by surprise before the House. I counted the number of lawyers in the Senate, in the National Assembly, in these two committees. Cumulatively, the lawyers in these two committees have got 250 years of practice.
That we have to get seized of and see how then when we release this bill to the people to make a decision on a referendum, it becomes something which they can interact with. So the only issue that got me startled is this thing that we are ceremonial. I am not in anybody's ceremony.
However, there are claims that the committee is already divided on a number of issues. Among them, the MPs also warned the House allowed to make amendments to the bill as opposed to rubber stamping.
This exercise, in case of 70 new constituencies, must be done within 6 months. Right, irrespective of the provisions of Article 89, Sub-Article 4. So it is a gray area where we need to see whether a provision in the schedule can oust a provision in the substantive constitution.
The bill is now set to be debated on the 1st of next month. The committee is, however, scheduled to meet members of defunct committee of experts that came up with the 2010 constitution to advise them on way forward.
Position where we may request the committee to be dissolved, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if a committee now can get out of its mandate to go and look for other lawyers, and some of them are lawyers in that committee, Mr. Speaker, and they are saying, we want to seek the opinion of other lawyers in town, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, please save the situation. Bring back the bill to the House, Mr. Speaker. The bill belongs to the House and not the committee, Mr. Speaker.
There's no way that this House is even going to change a comma, not even a comma, in the proposed bill. Because how then do you change what Kenyans appended their signatures on?
The chair can tell us, one, how much time Mr. Speaker he needs, because we can't alter the calendar of the House on record, and today you are telling us, you have talked a lot, but there's nothing I picked. What are the reasons? Well, yeah, we didn't pick it. What are the reasons why you want the extension? And how long do you want the extension? Because this document is a popular initiative.
The Joint Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs finalized the public participation exercise after receiving views from 65 individuals and institutions. The differences in the Joint Justice and Legal Affairs Committee were evident on the floor of the House, with members arguing on whether the Constitutional Amendment Bill 2020 should be given more time in Parliament or not. Elizabeth Mutuko, TV 47 Palm Buildings, Nairobi.
All right, Rift Valley Regional Coordinator George Natembeya has ordered a 1-month ceasefire. That is the bandit-ridden North Rift region. Now, the 1-month window is to allow people holding onto illegal firearms to surrender them without any repercussion whatsoever. Area leaders, including governors and senators, have pledged to mobilize the residents to surrender the firearms.
North Rift region has been a war zone. The situation got out of hand in January when bandits killed several police officers deployed in Kapedo to quell the runway insecurity. Since the police operation began in Kapedo in January, only 50 firearms have been recovered.
Na bunduki imejaa kwa sababu hizi bunduki ambazo tumepata karibu 60 something. Bunduki inakuja na magazine na hakuna risasi. Kwa sababu gani? Risasi zinabaki nyumbani kwa sababu kuna bunduki nyingine huko. Ama huko na mpango ya kuleta hiyo endo nunue nyingine mara nunue ile nyingine ndio lete risasi. So we have to win our people from the culture ya bunduki kabisa.
Now, the government wants to employ a diplomatic tact in the disarmament program. After a meeting with political leaders from the region, Rift Valley Regional Coordinator John Natembeya has lifted the curfew in Kapedo and ordered a 1-month ceasefire. The ceasefire window is to allow area leaders to mobilize their residents to surrender illegal firearms in their possession. Natembeya has, however, warned against cattle rustling within the next 30 days.
And during that one month grace period, viongozi lazima tukubaliane kusikuwa na wizi wa mifugo. Itaharibu. Because kama mnahesabu 30 days na kesho wizi wa mifugo utafanyika, tutasema hatuwezi fuata mifugo kwa sababu mnamuko huko kwa. Si ndio? Tutarudisha roadblock na tutaendelea na operation.
Leaders from Baringo and West Pokot counties have pledged to play their part in restoring peace in the region.
Kili kilio ya mtoto mdogo, kilio ya mama, kilio ya wazee. Innocent people, 99.9 tiati. Hiyo maombi yao tumesikia. Tupe exactly 1 month kuanzia leo hii and the clock must click.
Na hawa wazee ambao wamekuja leo na wengine ambao hawajafika. Sisi tuko tayari kutembea hiyo nchi ya Pokot yote ili kuhamasisha wananchi kwa mambo ya amani.
Guns do not kill people. It is the mindset which kills people, not guns.
To me, all the parents, all the children of Pokotland, and especially Tiati, waende shule kwa lazima. Wafungie mahali na wasomeshwe huko na walishwe huko. Within some years, 10 years, hakutakuwa na mtu amejua kujifunza hiyo mambo ingine. We have to get a resolution. Otherwise, these boardrooms, we will come here, out.
Earlier in the year, security officers accused elected leaders in the North Rift region of fanning the insecurity witnessed in Kapedo, where 2 police officers and tens of civilians were killed. Muthoni Maine, TV 47.
Amani National Congress Party, ANC, will include people from outside the Mulembe Nation in its top leadership in its 2022 strategy. Meanwhile, the party boss Musalia Mudavadi says the party will also seek a new political formation following the collapse of NASA.
Speaking in Mombasa, the ANC party boss reiterated that the party is seeking political reforms ahead of the 2022 polls. Mudavadi claiming that the NASA coalition died after mistrust among members.
NASA has been weak. The coalition is suffering from trust issues. All right, I've said this before and I don't want to run away from it. But going forward, let us be prepared to perhaps see new political formations. as we move forward.
Meanwhile, the party says it will share its deputy chair and executive secretary positions with people outside the Mulembe nation to give it a national outlook. The party recently won the Matungu by-election, giving it more lifeline in the western region.
Tumekubaliana tutaweka structures from the grassroots level to the national level. Tumekubaliana pia viongozi wenye wanashikilia nyadhifa katika national office, including myself. Hii vile tutafika kiwango ya national elections, tutaachia other communities zishikilie hizi viti. Musalia nitatumwacha pale juu kama party leader ili tupatie chama national image. Tumekubaliana Secretary General atatoka outside the community. Deputy party leader atatoka outside the community.
Mudavadi has been teaming up with Ford Kenya's Moses Wetangula, Wiper's Kalonzo Musyoka, and KANU's Gideon Moi in the recent past in what has been termed as looming political formation.
All right, and that story, we leave it at that. That is in regards to the, looking at the reviews of the stories that have been prepared by my team. But we do not just go without also getting the view of a member of parliament who is equally a member of the ANC party, who is with us this morning as we look at, the politics of the day. And remember, the main subject that we'll be looking at is the standoff about the BBI bill that lies in Parliament this moment. I mean, even as we await with bated breath to see what they will deliberate on come the 1st of April. And so two gentlemen will be joining me for this particular conversation. Honorable Member of Parliament of Matuga constituency, Honorable Kasim Sawa Tendaza, and Honorable James Gakuya, Member of Parliament, Embakasi North. Good to have you, gentlemen. Asante sana for your time. It's always a pleasure to host you. Mheshimiwa, I have mentioned that one of us is a member of parliament that has been elected, was elected under the ANC party. These adjustments, do you suppose are friendly enough and are adjustments that are going to be welcomed and are going to help the ANC party, sell itself widely across the, national spectrum?
Thank you. I'm not only a member in the National Assembly on an ANC ticket, but also the deputy party leader.
Yes.
Our constitution allowed for 4 deputy party leaders. So we had Ayub Savula, myself, and Captain Yare from Northeastern. This is a national party for sure, but with all the challenges that there could be, but it is a national party aiming for the presidency. Remember, for our party leader, he has been there long enough. In 2013, in UDF, when he went for the presidency, I was also the national organizing secretary in UDF then, though I didn't go for an elected position. So this is the way to go, not only for our party, but for anybody who is serious for the top seat come 2022. Definitely, there has to be formations. Nobody, I think the era of one person, solo moves, going for the presidency and winning are long gone. And this is for a fact.
It's been looked at as a Mulembe Nation outfit. Are there moments you felt so as a party leader or as a deputy party leader?
No, you see, the reality of parties in our country, and this one we have to admit, and we've had these debates before, the reality of this of parties in Kenya, though national, they will always have a stronghold somewhere.
Okay.
No, not really a tribal. I will not go for the term tribal. Because going forward, us as Coastarians also, we are coming together as leaders and see how we can ascend to the top seat come 2022. So I think I will talk of regional more than tribal. And this goes for all parties. ANC, you don't have to mention it. ODM also, we know it's a stronghold. Even the latest party, UDA, we would know where its strength comes from. Equally with all the other parties. So that is not unique for ANC. But having the origin or the strength from a particular region, then you go nationally. And that is why I can repeat for 1,000 times that as Coastarians, as leaders, I think it's high time we also came with our own formation, a national formation, but with its strength from the coastal region. So going forward,
so that means
this is
in
the kind of formations that we will be going for.
All right, Mushima, before I loop you in, so that means, because we are expecting, well, if the BBI conversation is to sail through, there's so much that will culminate out thereafter. Coalitions will be formed, different parties will come up, as they seek to find an outfit towards, getting into the presidency or to the, system of government, leadership that will be there then. You're trying to say that in the event that the coastal region will come up with a formidable force and a party, then you will defect to that one?
No, it's not a question of defection. It's a question of positioning yourself for the national cake. You know, even when I'm at the national platform, remember I'm representing a constituency. I'm representing a region. And ultimately, if I were to go outside the country, I will be representing Kenya. So at one point, as leaders, you have to see where your constituents or your people are better represented in terms, and here we cannot hide. It's all about the national resources that they're there. That for the better part of our independence, the coastal region has been marginalized. This is for a fact. And we cannot continue that way. So as I'm in ANC, as I proceed to ANC, the formations that we are going to be, certainly we should be able to work with the winning team, the winning coalition. And for this matter, I don't have any avoidance of doubt on what we are now referring to as the One Kenya team. So whichever way, I'm not illusioned that if we were to come together as coastals, we'll automatically go for the top seat and win. Definitely we have to be in a certain coalition. And for this case, I think the One Kenya team is a sure bet that nobody would want to be left out, where my party leader belongs, where my party leader is actually spearheading. So I'm still there.
All right, well, okay, Mheshimiwa Gakuya, I know this is not your party, so there's really nothing much we can talk about it, but then we can use it as a case study to look at the general, national outlook, and we speak of a scenario where we have parties. We celebrated multi-partyism, yes, but then we have parties inclining more on certain regions as opposed to, having that national look. What do you make of this move by ANC, and do you suppose it stands a chance, even if it is to make such adjustments? See, I can tell you for free that most of the people will probably not know that there is an existence of leadership from different regions within the top helm of the ANC. They see ANC and they assume the Luhya or the Mulembe nation.
Thank you, Rinda, for giving me this opportunity. And chipping in the same line of debate, my views are, yes, it is true that this country was under one party sometimes back, and the repeal of Section 2A was repealed to clear a roadmap to multipartyism. Multipartyism, it means there is what we call multi-party power and authority, that at least it's no longer a single party state. The regulations are there, set well by the Constitution, on how those particular parties ought to be, and how for them to not to be amorphous parties, but to be at least parties seen in working. There are major areas that actually parties are being left out. One, that at least those parties who maneuver to get good numbers enjoys resources from the government. And these are the harvest that maybe most of those amorphous parties does not have opportunity to. And therefore, there is a serious need for those parties that are so lining on tribal parties, being seen as tribal parties that don't give a meaningful speech to become a national party, must think twice on how to build up themselves and at least give themselves an outlook that it will be seen as a national party. Coming to where the ANC is and its leadership, it is very important to consider that this party has a chairman from the Luhya community, it has a deputy party leader from Luhya community, it has a party leader from the Luhya community. So it's like most of the position, it's like a purely a cocoon of a tribal party. And coming up with the idea of relinquishing some of these positions so that other regions of the country can be able to ascend to power, it will give them an outlook to be seen as not necessarily a Western region party, but at least a national-wide party. Finally, my take is going to where we are heading to. I have gone through an area that Musalia Mudavadi has spoken, and actually his views are very clear, that actually it's like there is a doom going forward with this element of NASA fraternity. And he has spoken very clearly that it's high time their strategy is to come up with a new rearrangement on how to prepare themselves to 2022. It is very clear, reader, that in fact no single party will be able to maneuver to clinch power in the 2022, going to the setup.
It will be a question of coalitions.
Of course, because surely the terms and conditions given by the Constitution, the threshold is very high. And attaining 50+1, it's very hard for a single party unless there is such kind of a coalition. And the problem here is that actually we made this country to be at least like tribal variations.
Right.
And when you have also witnessing the last concluded by-elections, you have seen it very clearly. Once you move to Kambani, they are solidly behind Kalonzo and his party.
If you come to Kwale County, where I come from, out of 4 members of parliament, and that is Coast, where you think ODM is very strong. Yes. Only one is in
ODM.
Is on ODM.
Okay.
I'm on NC.
Right.
The other guy from the other honorable member from Lunga Lunga is on Jubilee, and now Faisal from Msambweni is an independent.
Yes.
You see, so that tells it all. And you can go all. When you go to Lamu, there is no ODM member of parliament, not even the senator, not even the county representative. All the other members are from different parties. So this notion that ODM calls the shots from Coast, it might have been there some time back, but the reality on the ground, and numbers don't lie, it is not there anymore. That's the fact.
What will it take to dismantle our coalition? Because, well, we still do not have a clear picture as to whether NASA is in existence or not. And, you know, word of mouth probably could not be good enough to push a memorandum that was agreed upon, about 4 principles for that matter.
Well, the NASA coalition legally is still binding because it was signed, and it was signed when I was already announced as the deputy party leader, and deposited with the registrar of political parties. So legally it is there. It is a legal document. But so I think the most important thing which we have to realize is after multipartism, after single party and we ushering in multipartism, no election has been won by the previous coalition. Yes. You see. Yes. Even when we talk of Kibaki, that is the first multipartism, he came in with NAC, but the second time he came in on a different party. Yes. And even when it comes to the current president, that is Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, His Excellency, you realize he came in initially with TNA. And the next one, he came in with Jubilee, a different coalition. Yes. And the other side, those who have been in opposition, it is the same. Maybe in business we'll call it rebranding, basically, but rebranding for better. And I cannot see it differently going forward. So that is a normal thing. Okay. NASA cannot hold water. It has its own problems. But even if it was to hold water, having lost, then as they redraw their strategies, which I should have been there, would be now, who else can we bring on board? And you cannot bring on board with the old coalition, definitely. You will have to rebrand, you'll have to change the name, you'll have to add more people, because politics is about numbers. And that is where this time, as coastal region, I repeat and insist, we should be part of those numbers that are actually being counted at the highest tempo. All
right, well, interesting things, or interesting to watch. We'll be waiting to see how this culminates. Briefly on the papers, Waishimiwa, before we get into the discussion, Kenya orders closure of camps, that is the Dab and Kakuma. What will be the ramifications of this? What could have informed this? And will it even worsen the situation that is there in terms of animosity that we witnessed between Kenya and Somalia? Look at these numbers, 500,000 people. Where will they go? Honorable Gakuya.
Let me say that we need to, there has to be ways and means of resolving our internal issues. Going to the situations we have been going through, and take into consideration that actually we have borders that are very vulnerable. These are the areas to do with the Ethiopia-Kenyan border, Somali-Kenyan border, and also we have small element in our Uganda-Kenya border of Migingo and so on. I still think that in fact the neighboring communities and the neighboring nations have to look for ways of permanent solutions towards how they can be able to coexist. And in case of arriving to situations where there are some vulnerable areas where there are kind of internal wrangles. There should be good mechanisms set to make sure that actually this can be addressed and resolved in a very quick way, other than people always migrating from an area to another, looking for fresh livelihood. And my take is that battles that we are, and most likely in the route of the area towards the volatile areas of pastoralist areas. We have a big issue to do with battle to do with the areas like Baringo in Kenya, where it's like normal that when a young man is born, it's like, yes, he's born to know how to use the gun. And the next thing is that we have communities that they believe on when one moves out of home and coming back already invaded properties or animals back home, he is a hero. And unless we come out of those ages, it's only when this kind of animosities are going to be sorted. So we have a big way to go. And the government should start nurturing our communities and making sure that at least we enlighten our communities as early as possible. And most areas like those vulnerable areas of pastoralism, I believe there is need to look for how to deal with what we call boy child, because boy child seems to be the one who is very vulnerable in this particular matter. Yeah. And I think that if we can find a mechanism how a boy child can be nurtured like from the younghood, taken to a school and permanently cross there in a manner that actually he can come up from that childhood and grow to the level of maturity. I think we can win out those nasty kind of culture.
And radicalization, which is extremely on the rise. Let's take a quick break, Weshimiwa, and then we come back to expound some more on that as we get to the discussion.
And I'll be showing you how to make this no-bake dessert. Quite easy no-bake desserts. The Scottish Cranachan and the apple crumble.
Umesimamia mfanyikazi hapo, hakuna maji imewekwa.
Yes.
ECF is East Coast Fever. ECF actually is carelessness. It's pricey, but it's sure bet.
It's sure bet.
Yeah.
Join us this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. as we head to Machakos to learn all about small-scale dairy farming.
On the next episode of Garden of Eden.
There are 1,000 red flags, and the thing is, you have an instinct, you have a gut, you know when something's off.
Should we get to a point where he says we are now dating officially, or how does our picture look like?
Nobody does that in this generation. You don't even ask a girl out anymore. You just sort of like, you know, when you're in a relationship with somebody, you know, because there's give and there's take.
Every Wednesday at 10 p.m. On the next episode,
talk about bungalows and lighting, how important it is to have the right light for your house.
I need to make my space look good. We see all these inspirations and
that excitement of jumping to take some like it. After that, you can resell your house or you can enjoy your house and your life is happy.
The Realtor, every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m.
Join me this Sunday at 6:30 p.m. on the Throwdown, and I'll be showing you how to make this no-bake dessert. Quite easy no-bake desserts. The Scottish Cranachan and the apple crumble.
All right, welcome back. We still have Mheshimiwa Gekuya and Kasim Sawa as we ponder some more on what has been captured in the papers. Actually, it is interesting to note that much as theirs is a line of politics, sometimes even on social issues, they can debate on. And, you know, at that time when we were on break, we're just looking at this one, which I will not allow them debate some more because I realize that they will go against what it is that I think, or one of them will, and I will not allow him to get that glory. 11-year union was not a marriage. Woman tells court. This is after, you know, they lived with their husband, got or sired about 4 children there. And of course, the widow is in court to prove legitimacy of her marriage to a tycoon she met later. And well, the conversation is an interesting one. You do not want to hear that. So we drop it and we get back to this one. And there's a huge target, still a huge target, or so to speak, made it upon your man, or at least the person you support, Honorable Gekuya, inside new plot to block Ruto. It looks like he is not going to rest until 2022 comes, and past 2022, then we can know whether he will rest as a person who's not been voted in, rest as opposition leader, or rest as the president of the nation, or the prime minister, who knows?
Reader one, I believe that in fact what is very important is, one, to respect the laws of the land. Once we respect the laws of the land, and those who are supposed to respect the laws of the land first must trickle from the above downward. Because there is no way that you can have a constitution that at least the executive sometimes feel that they are not part of it and they can do anything outside that constitution. Then that tells you that actually this constitution becomes paper and not a document to lead a nation. This particular case, I want to say, in the case ahead of us, and the matter going cycles on matters to do with the future of the politics of William Ruto, it is very true that actually there is a very high machination which is trying to find, to see an element where this particular son of Courage in Legion will not see a right of the day in the ballot box. But I would tell them very clearly, the laws are very clear, and that what the law stipulates is that in fact one has to comply with certain compliance areas to the Electoral Commission, and it is that particular body which has been given powers by the Constitution to clear any single candidate to become a candidate. If one complies with the set down regulations of becoming or a contender, then one qualifies to become anybody in this particular land, with or without the wills or likes of people. In the situation in where the Jubilee Party lies, there is a big smoke there, and now I can call it fire. But in whichever way it may go, whether they want to throw out the deputy president as the deputy party leader, that does not say anywhere in the Constitution automatically he becomes the position of the deputy president becomes vacant. It is not that way anywhere. And therefore, I would say, in terms of his future between now and election, I don't find any single room, no matter which battle. The battle which can only kick him out is through impeachment and a vote of 2/3 in the House,
which is possible,
which is very impossible, going to the numbers required. It is very impossible. Yes, himself is a person who can be able to command about 140 number of votes. It tells you minus 249, then you becomes with less than 200.
What do you say about that, Honorable Tandaza? And you know, sometimes maybe during a sitting with your party leader, they probably get to mention some of the things that, or some of the stuff that they've been talking about when they are setting up these meetings. And so there's this meeting that was held between party leaders, you know, alongside the president. You know, that, as mentioned, was not just about how we forge forward as you know, as a united nation, but equally on how best they can be able to root out the DP. What is in this one person that would get all these other leaders that are so strong and, you know, could easily form a formidable force? A little bit, you know, getting the shivers about this individual, and what are some of the things that are deliberated on when they are having these sessions? Because I want to believe when they meet as party leaders, then they're told, well, make sure you disseminate this message to your party members, to, you know, the officials within the party.
I don't think party leaders, including His Excellency, would really sit and discuss an individual or a contender, or for that matter, the deputy party leader.
But this is what is being said, and actually it has looked in, you know, governors from the coast region are actually amongst the people who've been used as tools also to fight this war.
I'm very uncomfortable with you, Linda, using the word used as tools. Yeah.
Is it not so?
I don't think.
Okay, they have been
as leaders,
looked into
I don't think even me as a leader, I can be used as a tool to actually deal with somebody.
Money has exchanged hands in Parliament at some point in time. Is that not being used?
It could have exchanged
10,000, you know, something as low as 10,000.
I can swear before my God
that's not
me. I can't be used. Whatever the amount, it could be 10, it could be $1 million, but surely as a leader, one person who would want to go by principles and policies and fairness. For this particular matter, I think what I know about the leaders who meet, including my party leader, for right now, I think what is most important is the issue of the BBI, which is about inclusivity. And let's admit it, and I think even Mheshimiwa Gakuya has admitted that our Kenyan politics or our population is based on our ethnic affiliations. That is for a fact. So when they meet, going forward, it's about basically inclusivity and how we can achieve this. And for sure, this can be achieved through the passage of the BBI. I don't think they will really go ahead and discuss that we want to kick this person out. In any case, the Jubilee government is still there. I believe it is going to be there up to 2022 and to the general election, and that is where I'm not privy to what their constitution says. I wish Honorable Gakuya will shed light here on how they elect or they nominate their presidential candidate, because every party, I believe, before you deposit it, it's accepted by the registrar of political parties. It goes into the extent on how you are going to nominate your presidential candidates, on how you are going to nominate your parliamentary candidates, and so forth. So if it says that the deputy party leader automatically becomes the party candidate, then that would be a different matter. But as far as I know, from what I've heard from the vice chairman of Jubilee, and he's been on air several times, there is a process. So he's not a direct, he's not automatically until he's nominated by that party. And it is interesting for Honorable Gakuya also to talk about following the law, the government institutions, when he knows he himself, as he says here, he actually goes against the Political Parties Act. It is very clear that once you are elected on a political party like me in the ANC, it is against the law to agitate or to propagate policies of a different party. And that is what is happening right now, especially for that wing which there is referred as the Tanga. They know it very well. It's against the law. Why they think that law should not be applied to them, probably it's their better place to explain. But how much I wish that as leaders we can respect the law. And when it's about the law, it's about all the laws. If it is the Political Parties Act, if it is the Elections Act, when it comes to issues of violence, because those are well covered. As leaders, we actually respect those laws. And in case we break them, then those agencies bestowed powers to act should act. Because for now, I don't know why the Registrar of Political Parties has not enforced those sections which are very clear on issues of political parties. But going forward, it is my prayer that we are going to have leaders at one time who will actually walk the talk. When they talk about respecting the law, then respect the law, and not just selectively.
Yes,
because
he's here to
you.
defend himself and also, the members of parliament that are allied to the Tanga side, UDO, so to speak. And he's not shied away from saying this. He acknowledges that he is just in Jubilee Party body-wise, but psychologically, mind-wise, ideologically, he's on this other end. Will it be misplaced then to accuse you in this case that this is against the law?
Reader, I have overheard my colleague stipulating very clear that at least Maru Brika. But one thing, let us agree. If a party is a political party, the political party must abide by the regulations set by the party. Because party leadership can only survive because of walking the talk and talking the walk. In this particular case, it is Jubilee which started cracking from its own. Because remember, there was a candidate who was nominated by Jubilee in Kibra during the Kibra petition, during Kibra by-election. And you realize that particular candidate was at one point given a cab by the head of state at the State House to acknowledge that that particular candidate is a purely Jubilee candidate. But what we found on the ground was totally different. We found people like nominated a member of Nairobi Minor Commander, team to do with the Kirinyaga governor, and the rest of the team camping and campaigning for an ODM candidate on the other end. And the party never took any action against that. And that was a candidate already sponsored by the party. But no single action was taken to anybody who was against the party. In this particular case today, we have a scenario where we have Musabweni, where the deputy president decided to support somebody else other than what the party was doing, because the party decided not to nominate anybody, and the party decided to support a different candidate of another party. Now, that decision was not reached by the collective party decision organ. It was just a few number of people who purport to be the people calling shots in the party.
So it's a tit for tat affair.
In this particular case, later, nobody can stand to tell me he's going to discipline me, and yes, he's not disciplining himself.
But just how fair is this game going to be eventually?
No, this is only happening in those parties that don't care of the future of the parties, because anybody who has a care of a party to grow cannot start to.
How much of a leeway do you have to defect in totality?
No, in this particular case, you must stick to your party according to the law. And that's why I cannot officially say I am crossing to UDA. And I have been repeating that I am in the Jubilee borderwise.
What is so hard about speaking Jubilee until time is ripe, and then you can go and vie or run?
Because one thing, Linda, you cannot keep on preaching for a wine that you are not taking. You must preach a wine that actually you are taking. In this particular case, I'm saying Jubilee has already lost the election, and there is no way that you can see there is any light ahead. And you cannot say you click there until that party takes you to a dam site. You must start preparing yourself. How would you prepare tomorrow?
Kasim, do you realize that we're talking about the ruling party?
We are talking about the ruling party, but to me, I would want to take the debate higher, Mheshimiwa Gakuya and your colleagues. We are talking about the rule of law. We are talking about Kenya, and Kenya must be governed legally using the constitution and using the different acts
should the
of
parties
should
the parties also follow the law?
So
as long as the membership follows the law, should the party leaders also follow the law?
Certainly. You know, we are talking about, you know, we cannot be living in doing whatever each party or each individual likes. We cannot have one Kenya. That way going forward. So now, my point is very clear. 2 wrongs don't make a right, isn't it? And making a 3rd wrong will even worsen the situation. And when it goes to the Political Parties Act and the Elections Act, it is also very clear. In case you are no longer convinced, your conviction, you are no longer in that particular party, then it is also clear you resign.
Right.
You see, it is very clear. Why they are not resigning, I think they will explain further. But if they are really convinced that where they belong right now is the wrong place, and there is another vehicle which takes care of their interests going forward, and this is according to the law, they should resign. And this has happened before. And this has happened before.
Upon resignation, maybe that's the deputy president. But upon resignation, are you speaking also, or are you referring to the members of parliament?
Exactly.
And if they then resign, what does it mean? Do they cease being members of, county assembly, or members of constituencies?
A by-election ensues.
Yes.
And since
so
they are
that
so
means
confident,
they're losing their job.
No. If they are convinced that what they are doing is the right thing and that's what resonates with the people, certainly
they can still go to the
they'll
people
definitely get their job within 3 months. Okay. Probably they will only miss 3 months salary. That's the only thing.
Why don't you do that?
The reason they are not resigning is because they know they are also going to lose when they do it. I don't think they have the numbers on the ground. Otherwise, they will resign. Previously, I think we know historically the first vice president, Jaramogi, resigned and came back. And later on, Right Honorable Raila Omolo Odinga at one time also resigned and he also came back. So these are people who are really convinced that I'm now in the wrong party, but the people I represent are with me and they buy to my ideology. But here are people who are saying we're in the wrong party, but would rather stay there because now if we go to the electorate, we are going to lose our seats. Let's admit it.
Leader,
that's the position.
I totally disagree with my panelist. And let me tell you, he assesses his own ground. I do also do assess of my own ground. Yeah. And I can tell you for sure, he has repeated very well that actually 2 wrongs can't make right. Yeah. But one thing is that the shareholders of the party are the owners of the party. And then people, the office bearers are not the owners of the party. So who is really doing, who is really undercuts the other? It is that leadership at the top, which is undercutting the membership. Under this particular scenario, there is a situation where there is no any single proper memorandum set to merge or to do what we call political alliances. That is the current situation we have in the parliament. Okay. You have witnessed members from the Jubilee already the position taken away, and those particular positions awarded to the alignment of the other parties. It is not official, and the law does not articulate that, because there is those positions that are appear left by the standing order purely for the opposition. But the rest of the position, until unless there is a clear merger of 2 parties.
No.
Let me tell you, there is no way you can tell me today you just wake up, decide to work with a certain party, your party organs has not has not passed such a resolution, and yet you are telling me that you are taking us to the right direction.
Right.
It can't
I think Mheshimiwa is actually not getting his facts right when it comes to, I think he's referring to parliamentary committees. What happens, and I'm sure he knows it very well, the chairmanship, the leadership of a party normally goes for an election. It
Right.
goes for an election. All parties, committee parties, go for an election whenever that time comes. Okay, it happens that when the majority of the members of that committees will be belonging to a particular party, then they tend to vote for their own. But it is not in the regulation that they must vote for their own.
Yeah.
You see, even me in ANC, the committee I belong to, NGCDF and Regional Integration, I'm the only member of that party in those committees.
Yeah.
But should the membership of the committee decide to vote me in, I'm legally the chairman of that party.
Nobody can question
And
that.
those are the facts, Mheshimiwa Gakuya. So this issue that positions meant for a particular party given to another party, you are totally misrepresenting.
But you know, we also agree that there's some level of influence.
But
when it comes
Linda,
to
of course,
setting up
of course.
and maybe that's why he complains that, well, his party has not been fair enough.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, there was an election.
Yes.
And whoever got that seat was elected by the members of those committee.
Right.
And you know, canvassing is part of politics. You know, convincing people is part of politics. Before I get a position, even on NC, I should have done some canvassing somewhere.
Yes.
You know,
and lobbying, they call
lobbying,
it.
yeah, lobbying. So and lobbying is totally legal.
But
you know?
leader,
and that's what happens for this matter.
Leader,
I've
in this
not gotten
scenario,
a chairmanship position, but I will not say it's because I'm purely on ANC. No. Those are not the regulations.
Leader, I can tell you for sure. Partly I would agree with the panelists. But I can tell you for sure, no single member, including an independent party member, does not require to be in a certain committee. But in the idea to do with the chairmanship and the deputy chairmanship, I can tell you that was at least circulated to every other every committee. That this particular position, whether you have applied for that position or not,
is it so?
There is a pure directive that was purely made from above that this position is purely for somebody, and that was it.
Why should it be it? Yet you have
that is what we call mutilating the democracy within the National Assembly.
Okay.
Yes. And we are saying such independence is no longer there, and the parties are just being overridden by the executive.
But at what stage did this happen? Maybe at a time when Jubilee was still in order, or so to speak. Why would you want to?
I can tell you because this is my second term in the House.
Yes.
In the first Parliament that I represented, this nonsense was not there. This is a matter that was introduced in the current Parliament, which is totally bad, because surely, one, I am an equal member like any other member. How can you tell me that I have no duty and powers to contend for a certain particular chairmanship in such a committee that I am a part of? That this particular position has to be like myself.
Yeah.
I was elected as the chairman of the broadcasting with 17 votes against somebody with 4 votes.
Okay.
And let me tell you, people were compared to the State House, and actually they were made to reverse the same decision was made by that committee. What fairness is that?
I hope Mheshimiwa also believes in inclusivity for this matter, and that's.
But inclusivity does that mean that some counties are lesser than the others?
When we speak inclusivity,
because we are representative, and we are representative of the people.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I hope Mheshimiwa, as a national leader, I believe is not just talking for the members of Embakasi, but as a national leader also believes in inclusivity.
Inclusivity at the expense of somebody else's rights?
No. Not at somebody else's right, you know. And that is why in our constitution, the current constitution, we have affirmative action. Initially we were recognizing that there are some areas who are marginalized and all that. And I think going forward, that's what BBI is trying to cure. That a point reaches where, you know, when you just let it to the numbers, some people will never be anywhere in this country, and yet they are legally, they are supposed to enjoy equal rights like any other member. So, one, whatever happened is not against the law.
Okay.
You know, we are talking about the law here, and me and him are actually the legislators. We should be upholding the Constitution. So, whatever is actually complaining about, it's not against the law. If it were against the law, one would have gone to court and actually won, you know. But it's not against the law. It's only that for at one point, I think he's been so privileged, Mheshimiwa Gakuya, with his numbers, and I don't want to go that direction of tyranny of numbers that he was enjoying. But when now inclusivity comes in, when affirmative action comes in, when some leadership somewhere realize that going forward, we need each and every Kenyan, even the smallest ethnic community, to get a position, which I ascribe to me, that's the way to go for the to take Kenya forward, then that's be it. Otherwise, it is not against the law what happened. It is not in the standing orders, in the regulations, that a party, a particular committee like the one in broadcasting, then it must be headed by a member from Jubilee for this matter. No, otherwise there will be no elections. So whatever happens, maybe I can tell him he didn't lobby enough. You know, sometimes to get a position, you need to know who calls the shots.
Right.
And I think that's where he went wrong.
He should have gone an extra mile to the person who calls
yeah,
the shots.
Exactly.
To tell them, I have 17, please.
Leader, I am still contesting. I am still contesting.
Yeah.
And I am not comfortable at all. What is the independence of the judiciary? What's the independence of the National Assembly? What's the independence of the executive? It is to allow those members elected and nominated to squarely prosecute their issues without influence from outside. Why do you influence the National Assembly committees from outside? Allow the committee either to approve you or to disapprove you. That's a democracy. Otherwise, why do you want to mutilate from outside? That's my big concern. Because one thing I challenged in the court.
And then?
Yes, but up to date, those rulings were never made.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's the most unfortunate thing. Yeah.
But I can tell you, reader, for sure, if really we are walking our talk, if we are going, if we mean it, we have to give the democracy the room. Let me tell you, this element of inclusivity and everything else does not mean one has no right. Do you want to tell me that actually if I want and I contest a position, then I have to surrender that position because I'm a particular community?
It gets even complicated for coalitions.
This cannot work.
The NASA coalition had its fair share of troubles when it came to that because, well, evidently sometimes you must
what should be done if in case of those elements of minority and so on, then it has been crafted very well how they should be also getting a gain out of
within the constitution. But is it not through this affirmative action that you speak about?
No, I have no problem with that.
Right.
But what I'm saying, people, we cannot be at some point be circumventing or be sacrificing other people who are equally representative of people, because here it is we are all representative. How do I come when I arrive to the floor of the house, I become a lesser person than somebody has to be, because of a certain agenda or so on, I become a lesser and somebody becomes become higher. In that particular case, I would say, in that particular, there is no what we call independency. Because surely, as a representative, we have to go there, let me contend, you contend, let the one who gets majority win. And that's the rule of democracy.
Guess why the two-third gender rule has been flopping all this while. Anyway, we dropped that one. Let's come to this one that informs the basis of our conversation this morning. I think I will overlook the other stories that were equally very important on the newspaper. KQ Historic Law says desperate Kenyans in rush for vaccine. Maybe that we'll touch on later on. But to this one, leaders unite to tame Ruto in battle of 2022. We've looked at that. But MPs differ on BBI team term extension. There is evidently a standoff within these houses, and that is in Parliament, of the Constitution Amendment Bill 2020, which is to be tabled on the 1st of April for debate. That is after Speaker Justin Muturi awarded them 10 days. On the other hand, at the level of the Senate, the temporary Speaker, that is Isaac Mwaura, awarded the JLAC about 14 more days. A bit of confusion coming in regards to this. And the biggest question is just how instrumental is Parliament in terms of making changes or maybe deliberating on bills that are as crucial as this, as they would term it, a popular initiative bill. They say their role is ceremonial and therefore they cannot make any adjustments. Yet there's been public participation that has been conducted at that level. I mean, it is becoming a bit complicated, Mheshimiwa Tandaza. What would you make of this?
From where I sit, Linda, my conscience is very clear that once the threshold for 1 million signatures was attained, and for this case, we are told it was over 3 million. And once over 24 counties, and for this matter, it was over 40 counties which passed this bill. What remains of us is to expedite the process of the referendum, you see. Of course, there has to be public participation. It is there in the Constitution. It's a very good move that people should be made aware of what is happening. And this has been done by the Joint Committee for the Senate and for the National Assembly. To me, what is happening, for lack of better word, I will say it is totally unnecessary noise. You see, once you do the public
why would you want to consider this unnecessary noise while these people who are appearing before the houses or no are equally registering what it is that they think they need to get adjustments on? I mean, 7 issues were raised in regards to this. Among them, well, the creation of 70 constituency, new 70 constituencies, and I mean, issues of mandate of office of the ombudsman. We're talking about the process of developing the BBI report itself and a couple of other things. Why would you consider this as unnecessary noise?
In terms of timelines, it's unnecessary because ultimately this bill will go for a referendum. The person or the persons who are having these reservations are going to have the final say. You see, essentially what is happening in Parliament is a process. You see, we are also going to debate it. I'll give my reasons that I would wish this section was better. I would wish this area would have been done this way. I also have my reservations. I also have my different opinions. But ultimately, our role will debate. Will do already. The public participation has been done.
You are a proponent of this document.
Whether, and I think this is a legal position, well informed, that whether we are going to have a yes or a nay at that particular point, this bill will still go for a referendum.
You are a proponent,
and that is where now the final decision will be made. There is no point in now the reason I'm saying it's unnecessary noise is where now we are debating whether we are going to add, we are going to change. No, there is no room for that because people have already appended their signatures on the document as it is. You see, now trying to change it, it means now you'll have to seek for a fresh mandate. And to me, this BBI debate has taken too long. It is a matter that I think we should have concluded a long time ago. But now that it is in the National Assembly, my position as a legislator is let's take the shortest time. We will debate it. We'll either have a majority accepting it or not. But since the legal path is very clear, the final say is with Mwananchi, and this is at the ballot at the referendum.
Maybe I'll come to you later on with my question, but I'd love to hear the reservations of Honorable Gakuya also in regards to the same and the debate that is at hand.
Rida, my views are very clear that we are forced to do what we call duplication of work. Once you realize that when the counties were were making their decisions on whether to approve or disapprove this particular bill, they were subjected to what we call public participation. Then, at the level of the National Assembly and Senate, then another public participation. I believe the correct point of public participation is during that county level, because this was done before making up their mind, and it was to assist them to make mind that actually they have given power by that constitution to either approve or disapprove. But if you subject another public participation at the national level of the National Assembly and Senate, and you have no room to open this document to instill what you have collected, the views you have collected from the people, then you are cheating people. Because in the first place, what a waste of time. Why do you waste of time, 2, 3, 4 days, taking views from the public, and yet you can take these views nowhere? You have no mandate to open that document to instill their views. It tells you that you are mockery. It's a mockery. Because in the first place, you are wasting their time. Otherwise, at what point will their views see a route to that particular document? Then, to my view, is that if you are subjecting a public participation at that level, you must also allow amendments to incorporate the views of the people at that level. Otherwise, the rest is cheating.
Very many people have, their views registered but have not been incorporated, including the DP himself. He probably feels like some of the things that he wished incorporated and rooted out, such was not done. So it is evident that in such a process, and that's why we acknowledge that this is a dynamic a document such that, anytime there can be a review of the same, and it is allowed in law that anybody can, start to push for the same. So why would we insist that everything has to be worked on at this particular time? Why not acknowledge it as it is and hope for another time where we can have a review of the same?
One thing is, why leader I'm saying we don't require waste of time and a lot of duplication of a process is if it is very clear, and the law is very clear, that after the approval of this particular bill by the counties, then the House has no room, it is a ceremonial, then we don't have to create a...
It shouldn't have gone through the House after all.
What for? Just take the document direct to the head of state for referendum. Because if the House has no room to make in a single amendment, then where waste of time?
A lacuna in law in this case?
I don't think it's a lacuna in law. I would also avoid the term ceremonial, because as leaders, you need to be heard. You see, the majority will have their way, but the minority also have a right to be heard. So for this matter, at the National Assembly, I know my constituents, and even his constituents would want to know, okay, these are our views. We could have presented them at the county public participation. But what are the views of our member of parliament? And the only time legally you are recorded in the Hansard that these are the views of Mheshimiwa Tandaza, these are the views of Mheshimiwa Gakuya is in parliament. So it is important that we debate it. Because this goes for posterity. That once upon a time, during the constitutional amendment, Mheshimiwa Tandaza, these were the views of Mheshimiwa Tandaza. Whether they are going to be included or not, for this case they are not going to be included, but it is important that the public knows the views of their representatives.
Do you suppose we should have an adjustment of this one, that such that in future maybe Parliament could be allowed to make adjustments?
I don't think that route would also have taken it somewhere, because if the process is that before you actually even make that bill, make that proposal to the IBC and ultimately to the counties, you need 1 million signatures, you know. And then the time I'm signing for something, isn't it, which I've agreed upon. The one who is not agreeing to that proposal will not sign. And then after I've signed, it goes to Parliament and then you adjust it again. Then it means you have to ask me again whether I'm agreeable to those adjustments or not. And when will this debate end? And that's why I'm saying, for me, matters BBI should be expended expectation. They have taken a lot of our time. They have taken a lot of resources for this matter, and time is also a resource. Can we get over it and move ahead?
You're a proponent, Mheshimiwa, and you speak of wastage of time and how it is important to push for this document. And true to it, a majority of the proponents, even within Parliament, have argued that the committees are trying to, in a way, delay the process, which shouldn't be the case. If they are to delay the process and then eventually it goes to the people, goes for a referendum, and the people sail it through or give it a yes just because the adjustments that were mentioned earlier on, that is at the level of the Parliament in regards to public participation, were incorporated, and the public felt like this was good enough and they sail it through, wouldn't you be happy, as opposed to it going the way it is and then it is flopped?
No, you see, the law is very clear, and that is why I'm saying we need to follow the law. The current law does not allow. And trying to make it like it can allow, that's what I'm calling a necessary noise. It's a wastage of time.
On several occasions, the law has not allowed very many things, but we've seen courts deliberating on these matters and considering the interest of the public. And they say, well, because of the interest of the public, then we might have to bend the law a bit.
Yeah, of course, in the current constitution, anybody can go to court. As we are debating it, I know there are court cases going on. They are yet to be determined. But that, at least, thank God, they have not stopped Parliament to debate that document. And for as long as the courts have not pronounced themselves on this matter, can we move with speed and get this thing behind us? In any case, there are timelines in that document, which certainly they have to be met within some specific times towards 2022. The more we delay, the more we complicate. And remember, I don't want to be in that category of Kenyans where we would always want to complicate something which is straightforward. For this case, this is a very straightforward matter. Let us get all of it. When the general public say that this document is not good enough and they vote no, then I'll go by the majority. After all, that's what democracy is. And even when we are to open this document, Linda, honestly, I can't see a situation where in any document you will get 100% concurrence. That has never happened. And I was waiting with a bated breath for Mheshimiwa Gakuya to say, up to now, what is really missing in that document?
The key things that they want.
What is the key document? Because from Bomas, I think there were so many key issues which were raised, including my party leader when he spoke at Bomas. There were very pertinent issues, but they were included. So once they included, what is the point of again saying you don't support it? And that is why we are supporting it right now. And I remember even from the Deputy President's point of view, there were issues which has been raising.
A couple of them incorporated.
And most of them, it can't be all definitely, but most of them have been incorporated. Now, what is this that they would want to, again, to hold this document with more amendments and more incorporation?
Well, the 7 points that were issued by the...
we need to move forward.
All right.
We need to move forward.
But
they want to seek our experts' advisory. Just who are these experts that we're looking at?
Personally, let me see. Since I'm not part of that subcommittee,
yes, yeah.
I would leave I would leave the wisdom to them, because whatever route they would like to do, because surely I think at the point where this committee is in confusion is in a manner some areas are being drafted, like in the element of what we call delimitation of boundaries. Strictly, the BBI is talking about a process of 6 months, but the current constitution order, it gives the same commission a duration of 2 good years to do delimitation, and then you want this to shorten this particular time to 6 good months, and the election is just at the doorway. Is that going to be manageable? So the questions that are arising are in those particular areas where the law can be in lacuna, then you fail to understand which is superior than the other. Is it the BBI bill which will become superior than the current order, where the commission has their powers under the constitution, or whether it is this BBI that will supersede the powers given by the constitution to the commission? So there are those gray areas. Who will respond to them? And you want the document to be delivered the way it is, then it will be delivered the way it is. That's fair enough. But I am sure by the time of implementing some of these things, actually there will be some difficulties.
Well, and speaking of which then, don't you have fears that if these concerns are overlooked, then this document will not be able to withstand the constitutional court or legal battles that is set to face?
No, I don't think so. You know, what happens, the Constitution is the supreme law. The moment we pass BBI, it becomes the Constitution, and now that becomes the supreme law.
Yes.
It is upon us now to align the other laws to conform with the current Constitution.
Yeah.
And this is done in Parliament. If it is the question of timelines, the timelines don't need a referendum. These are things that can be changed in Parliament, you see. So it will be wrong if we went to the 6 months without changing that particular law on the IBC in terms of timelines. And I know this can be very easily changed within a week or so in the National Assembly, if we all agree that that is the way to go, which I think that should be the way. So we are really reading too much. It's like we are putting roadblocks on the path of the BBI.
Okay.
But to me, if it is passed, once the Constitution is passed, we'll have to make laws to aligned to that Constitution. And done expeditiously, it is very much achievable. I know there are already proposals in my constituency, which is one of those who are beneficiaries of the 70. And that is why I'm really for this BBI. Probably Mheshimiwa Gakuya is not a beneficiary. That is why he's against it.
We've seen some beneficiaries of, not really beneficiaries, but we've seen proponents equally saying that, well, maybe it is important we have this conversation. Senior counsel James Orengo himself has said, you know what, it is probably fair for us to have this conversation in the sense that we would allow, or we get to that level where we're mature enough to say that, you know, Parliament should also be able to deliberate on this bill as it is, as it does on the numerous other bills.
Yeah, but for as long as the law does not allow now,
we have to work with what
it is a waste of time going around and.
But don't you think such conversations will the conversations that will trigger the need for us to incorporate this in
probably law? For the next amendments. You know, when it comes to amending the Constitution does not limit the number of amendments that anybody can be done. So probably this can be put in the next amendments. But for now, we need to move forward and move forward fast. The law is very clear. Let's follow it. He's a senior counsel, and there are so many senior counsels. This thing has been with the senior counsels before. when it came to the public initially, when they were collecting views before this bill came up, I believe they made their presentations. But of course, we appreciate that there is no way we are going to have all the different views agreeing at one particular point. We need to agree that we need to move forward
as we write
up
the chapter, my remarks is that in fact there is a lot of wastage of public resources. One, we are in our own issues to do with our economic situations, and still we are just using public resources just with these public positions for nothing, for no single purpose. Why do you move to spend those public resources when we are aware that there is nowhere we are taking the views of the people, and then that is a waste of resources and time? Why do we waste this for? If that is really the authors of these are very sure and clear in their mind that the two houses has no power over any single amendment, then don't put all these barriers on the way. There's no need of all those unnecessary. What are they for? If at the end of the day, they will not add any value to the document.
Was it a mistake to have a joint committee deliberating on this?
Yes, we have a joint committee deliberating on this.
Was it a mistake?
And let me tell you.
Because, I mean, there are likelihoods that we're going to have different phases of this. Maybe Senate will deliberate differently.
Reader, we are still waiting to see the report from the committee. Yes. And I believe that, in fact, the speakers of both houses will pronounce themselves to the report, including the membership. And either they will adopt the report or they drop the report. There are two, but either way, at the time given by the Speaker of the National Assembly, that by first, the debate has to kick on. Then it tells you that, in fact, whether that report will be the House or not, the bill will still run. Then it tells you even those committees, sometimes they can be forgotten by the law, and the law can, and still the House can still kick on and proceed with the process without necessarily following the report of the committee.
Is it so?
No, because that is what the ruling. That's what the ruling of the Speaker yesterday. That's what he said. Whether the report will be in the House by first, the debate will start.
This is the confusion that comes along, and
that is the Speaker's statement.
Speaker Isaac Mwaura awarded the Senate committee 14 days. A bit of a confusion here. We're talking of 10 and 14 days, and we probably hope that this will be deliberated on almost the same days.
Well, it was having a joint committee was the right
angle to this.
Because it will save time. It will, we need one document.
But evidently, it is not saving time.
You see. Yeah, that's why I'm saying there's a lot of unnecessary noise on this matter. And of course, us as politicians and as the general public, we expect this also to happen. People will always have different views, but at one point, we need to agree to move forward. Now, on this matter, where the Speaker of the Senate gives 14 and this National Assembly gives 10, I think they are all in agreement that we need to move forward with this document the fastest possible. And I think when the Speaker of the National Assembly says we have to debate this on fast, it actually gives the urgency to that committee to make sure that they table their report. The committees also have a mandate of tabling reports to the National Assembly, to both houses of Parliament. So this is a question of urgency, that can they do all what they can, because we need to move forward. I think that's the message that the Speaker was saying.
What happens if the two houses have different opinions, or a different angle?
No, this is a joint report.
A joint report.
Yeah,
eventually,
so
has to be. There's not going to be a tussle.
Yeah, this is a joint report.
Eventually,
the members could have had different views, but ultimately,
eventually they have to present
a joint report.
Okay.
And remember, as Mheshimiwa Gakuya has clearly said here, to me, the public participation had to be done because it is also in law, And here, I would want to ask leaders to actually follow the law.
It is bound to face a lot of litigations, Mheshimiwa, that you will agree. I mean, the people who presented their views, that is in form of public participation, including, among them was the LSK. And you know very well how they can come along with a lot of laws and, discrepancies that are witnessed therein. Evidently, do you suppose it will be wise for this to go the way it is?
You see, even the LSK
knows very well.
They knew very well as they were doing their presentation that this document can't be changed. And I don't think they can feign ignorance. They presented knowing very well that at this point it is not going to be changed. But they also did the right thing in presenting, because they know This thing will come for the final say is with the general public at the referendum. So it's like they're articulating their views. They're trying to give their views for the general public actually to know, and where is the best place apart from the platform of the National Assembly, you know, where again we are going to debate. That is for general public. But all this information is geared towards the final vote on the referendum, where the president of LSK, I believe, will actually vote for this document as a good citizen of this country. And it supports him to vote yes or no, you see. But for as long as the law, let's follow the law. Let's move fast. Let's have this document behind us, and let's have Kenya move forward. We have pressing issues about the economy of this country, where my party leader keeps on talking about. And I truly believe every Kenyan agrees up to that point that we need to fix the economy. And we cannot fix this economy if we continue hanging on a document on BBI. Let's have it behind our backs, and let's talk about the real issues which can move this country forward.
Indeed, as we close this one, Mheshimiwa, do you still genuinely believe that this document is half-baked?
I am not convinced that this particular document is a complete due. And depending on the manner this particular process was handled, that's the reason why even to date, we have issues pending in court, and we have already five judge bench that made a ruling that actually there is a stay for after even though this process is going through. The hands of the Electoral Commission is tied not to take any action until that particular verdict is made by the High Court, and therefore it tells me there is a serious issues already tabled in court, which made the pronouncements of the court to give a stay. And therefore, let us wait the verdict of the court, what will they come up with. Because at the end of the day, they may approve the process to proceed, or they may say it is null and void.
So in this case, Senate will have to review their days downwards, or the National Assembly review their days upwards, so that eventually when they're presenting their reports, they come in jointly? Because when we're talking about Senate being awarded 14 days to deliberate on the same, which is what they asked for, or they asked for extra days. On this other side, the National Assembly asked for an extension of the days, but did not specify what numbers, and they were awarded 10. I think we need to make it clear.
Linda, I think we are making a very clear case look very complicated.
Yes.
When you are given 14 days, it does not mean you have to wait for the 14 days.
Okay, so they
can even do it in 5 days.
Right,
the Senate, in fact, they can even clear it faster than the National Assembly.
Okay.
When you are given 10 days, doesn't mean you have to wait for the 10th day. Okay. So to me, this is a very clear case. And for as long as the committee, both the Senate and the National Assembly and the Jailer Committee agrees that we need to expedite this, I'm quite sure probably by today is Wednesday, they can as well say, we worked 24/7 and the document now is ready by Friday this week. And that's the law. They will be within the law, and that is what I'm insisting on.
And I'm glad that you choose the positive side. Let's all wait and see. And as we said, many would say there's some level of witch hunt, there's some level of, efforts trying to probably delay this intentionally. We can only hope that such is not going to be the case, and then eventually we know what way forward. As we have closed on that one, as I had promised earlier on, we discussed the crisis that looms within the aspect of taking of vaccines. Have we handled this well so far as we get to wind up the program?
To me, I would say that actually the only fear that was there, Rita, is only the fear that actually was coming up. And this is towards that there was a big propaganda within our social medias and also within our papers that actually there is a big side effect of this particular vaccine. And we have seen big countries like France and Germany withdrawing from the exercise. And that created a lot of fear, even to the African people, taking into consideration that actually there is a propaganda there before created coming from the Bill Gates and others that actually they are in preparation to depopulate the African countries. And that fear can only be removed by our experts because we have our research here. So what our Cambridge should do is to make sure that what the product that we already ordered and the product that is already under circulation is a clear and good for us, and therefore give what we call a clear indication that actually the fear should be a thing of the past. And therefore, I think that is the only area that is not well treated with. Because the confidence of those who demands the vaccine, that confidence has to be made by a certain expert. And let me tell you, this is a product which is a foreign product. We need our Kenyan expert to tell us, is it a good product for us? That's what majorities are waiting about. And that's the only small fear. Otherwise, the process is going on well. Yes.
All right, 40,000 people only. Well, at least from this report, we hope that the number can be adjusted upwards. That is in regards to how many people will gain the confidence to proceed and take the vaccine. But on the other hand, we know very well that the Ministry of Health has said not everyone should be given this. It should be allowed that it is given to a certain number of people that have been mentioned as people who would probably require it ASAP. And so these discrepancies that we witness, and then last minute rush, or not necessarily last minute rush, we see also very many Kenyans going there equally, excited to get it, especially those ones who are 58 and above. I mean, what would you say about the general approach and how we've handled this dissemination of vaccines?
We've always had that problem, especially at the government level when it comes to such issues, that we normally let rumors or misinformation fly forward, and then we come, it's like now we are defending ourselves. Even when we have, and essentially that's also happened in the BBI document. We let rumors go ahead without even looking at the substance. Now it is the same thing about this vaccine. We let, as Mheshimiwa said, the social media, everybody became an expert on this matter. And of course, where the facts are not there, then the rumors are treated as fact. I believe in science myself. I'm a scientist, so I believe in science. But again, where it failed is where is the normal government, the way it works, that they were not able to move ahead before the vaccine arrived, But I'm happy, all is not lost. As up to yesterday, KPMDU came out clearly that this vaccine is quite okay, and we are also going to popularize. And certainly we believe on our own, And that is why even me, I'm sure some my people in Matuga will be even waiting to see what is Mheshimiwa saying about it.
Yes.
You are aware that by yesterday, the vaccine had also arrived at the press scripts of Parliament. And for sure, the members of the National Assembly parliamentarians are at high risk. I would rate them at the level, because we interact with the public in every aspect of our lives. So going forward, the government should be able to be proactive whenever there is a project which is coming up, and a good project for that matter, not only on the issue of COVID, but I believe there'll be more coming up. And for this matter, how much I wish that it will be available for every person, because you can imagine the mama mboga, the one you are talking about, the person who keeps on going to the market, to Wakulima market, to get her produce, his produce, the amount of the people he interacts with, she interacts with at that particular point. This is certainly a high-risk person. And I've always said, let it be done properly. No corruption this time should actually go into this issue of the vaccine. It will be very unfortunate if corruption came in, and let it cascade down to whoever needs it, and let it also be free. I believe the low number of uptake is as a result of logistical issues, which I'm sure going forward they should be sorted out. But to me, that is the way to go. Let it be available. Let me pray and hope that this time there will be no vaccine millionaires, as we've had before in the other issues. But because this is a matter of life and death, Linda.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member of Parliament for Matuga, Kasim Sawa Chandaza, and Honorable Member of Parliament for Embakasi North, James Gakuya, for that session. We close it at that. We get to a different altogether on matters teenage pregnancies, and especially at this time when we have our students back at home for the holidays after this break.
and I'll be showing you how to make this no-bake dessert. Quite easy no-bake desserts. The Scottish Cranachan and the apple crumble.
Umesimamia mfanyikazi hapo, hakuna maji imewekwa.
Yes.
ECF ni East Coast Fever. ECF actually is carelessness. It's pricey, but it's sure bet.
It's sure bet.
Yeah.
Join us this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. as we head to Machakos to learn all about small-scale dairy farming.
On the next episode of Garden of Eden.
There are 1,000 red flags, and the thing is, you have an instinct, you have a gut, you know when something's off.
Should we get to a point where he says we are now dating officially, or how does our picture look like?
Nobody does that in this generation. You don't even ask a girl out anymore. You just sort of like, you know, when you're in a relationship with somebody, you know, because there's give and there's take.
Every Wednesday at 10 p.m. on the next episode of The Realtor.
We will talk about bungalows and lighting, how important it is to have the right light for your house.
I need to make my space look good. We see all these inspirations in the net and we want to do that.
That excitement of jumping to take something because you like it is what makes people go wrong. After that, you can resell your house or you can enjoy your house and your life is happy.
The Realtor, every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. at 7:30 p.m.
And I'll be showing you how to make this no-bake dessert. Quite easy no-bake desserts. The Scottish Cranachan and the apple crumble.
Umesimamia mfanyikazi hapo, hakuna maji imewekwa.
Yes.
Welcome back. In the next 25 minutes or thereabout, we discuss teenage pregnancies, not necessarily taking that angle in depth, but technically looking at the fears that linger on or lie around at this point when we have our students going at home, for the holidays. You know what it is that we were treated to in 2020 after that declaration of the first case of COVID-19 in the country. It has been a tough situation. We've seen our students going back to school pregnant. What's important and what's good is the fact that they have been incorporated, they have been welcomed, and they have been taken good care of. But just how many had the confidence to go back amidst the shame, the stigma that lies around, and how many have been able to sit for their examinations in the very same state, and how many have had their process of school being stopped because of the things that they went through. Parents are worried. At some point in time, all this blamed upon the parents, as they would say. They probably have been absent for the longest of time, and now when COVID-19 brought them together with their children, it was hard for them to know what way forward, to just decide on how they can parent their very own children, having been called to be active in the lives of their children. But equally, teachers have had a fair share of, blows thrown at them. And I mean, while they celebrated and they said, well, we have done so much in the lives of these children that now they are at home, see what is happening. They've also been told constantly to, instill virtues that will be applicable across, not just in school, but remind them that it's important that they also instill, uphold these values even when they are at home. So we discussed this as we look at exactly what needs to be done amidst all this fear that lingers on. Joining us for the conversation, Johnson Chumwa, who's an author and motivational speaker, and we'll also be having Jasper Ondimu, who's an education expert on this discussion. Gentlemen, karibuni sana. It is a pleasure to have you. And we have you as parents with so much fear. Even some of us who have young children, still tiny, at PP something, still very young, we get scared when we hear that we have to stay at home with them for quite a long time, or they have to stay at home. Sometimes we feel like they're much safer and, much on an angle where they're disciplined more when they are at the school setup. But reality is that we have to have them, and we have to chart way forward on how we get to instill values in them, especially at this point. Parents of, girls are worried. Chumwa, what would be your advice to them this morning?
They need not be worried.
Mm-hmm.
It is time they took up their responsibility very seriously.
Have they not been doing that?
Most of them are casual.
Mm-hmm.
They are lousy. They are sloppy. And that's why we are seeing so many girls. We have a pregnancy pandemic in this nation. And we need to come up boldly and tell parents, you are doing too little. You need to up your efforts, because the girl child is an endangered species. Because she's getting so much unwanted attention from bad men, from evil men. And that is why, by the way, home should be the most safe place for a child to be. So now that they're on holiday, a parent should feel they should welcome them so well, and not complain, not feel like they're a burden, and protect them when they're at home. A child should be safer at home than at school. There's no way you're going to watch your son or your daughter go down the drain and you are watching. You gotta watch properly. You be vigilant. You must, if it means micromanaging, let it be. But you keep your eyes on that ball, because you have a duty to undertake. You have a duty to undertake. You cannot let your eyes go off the ball. You just have to protect that kid.
Not to glorify stigmatization, Mwalimu, but I sometimes we sit down to try and imagine. While as a country we have made strides, and we are glad that today a student, even if pregnant, can be incorporated in school, can be allowed to proceed with their studies as though it is okay or normal. I mean, there's some tendency that would be there in terms of, these students probably not feeling comfortable. I mean, these students running away from, that eye that looks at them differently. And even as teachers, I'd love to know, what is the experience like, if you are supposed to treat this student when the cases have been on the rise, and we know very well that at this time when we had our students go back to school, we had very many of them in school while pregnant.
Thank you, Linda, for having me on the show. Indeed, this is a very complex issue about teenage pregnancy. I might not want to take the tangent that has been taken by my friend here of specifically blaming the parents, because this is a societal issue.
Yeah.
In regards to the matter that you've raised about the stigmatization itself springs from the society, that we tend to bash these particular young girls who fall pregnant and then deliver. We do not gladly accept them into the society. Even at some levels like religious institutions in churches where this happens, you'll find immediately once one becomes pregnant and then is bashed out of the church. So it is a societal problem that we have right now. But it is prudent if we take a more preventive approach, because as a society I can dare say that we've absconded the responsibility that we have in curbing teenage pregnancies, including even the media. You'll find that at a particular year, the Ministry of Education or a certain organization will release the numbers. Then we shall discuss that. After a short while, then we go back to normalcy. So a lot has to be done in order to curb this increase in teen pregnancies. The reasons that lead to this are well known to most of us. So it is us as a society, as the media, as the religious institutions, even as teachers, to take this responsibility head on so that we can be able to prevent more teen pregnancies.
Well, maybe many would argue such was not the case back then, because then we always had a radical approach to handle this. That, you know, you could not get pregnant and you come back home and your mom looks at you as though, well, it is okay, don't worry, these things happen, and so much. So at some point in time, well, the fallen gallant son of Africa, Magufuli, said that, you know what, these students should not be allowed in school, something that was highly castigated. But others argued that maybe that was a wise thing to do, because then if you were to tell them you can always go there and you probably get pregnant and go back to school and nothing will happen, they will probably look at it as though, well, it's a glorification of the same, and therefore the girls would not be careful and the boys will equally not be extra careful in avoiding the same.
Oh, Linda, we need not stigmatize. We need to go beyond zero pregnancy and show care and concern. And as I answer, I also want to tell Ms. Ondimo that I'm not blaming the parent. I didn't blame anybody. But at the end of the day, the responsibility, it stops, everything stops at the parent's desk. That's where it stops. Now, back to your question. Girls are getting pregnant and they get stigmatized at home, at school, everywhere. They are looked at as evil. We should not do that. That is the time we need to show them love and concern.
Some are shown love and then they do it again and again.
Let them do it 3 times, but show them love. But once they do it for the first time, show them love and show them how not to get pregnant again until they have their own families.
Introduce them to family planning?
No, I don't support that. You are motivating them. Anytime you give them a contraceptive, you are motivating them.
Showing them love is not motivating them?
Showing them love is motivating them not to do something negative. But that will have adverse consequences.
All right.
Yes, Linda. So we need not stigmatize. If you see a girl is pregnant, as a mother, as a father, your daughter, show them love. Tell them, I know you sleep, daughter, but then next time be more careful and don't walk that road again.
Just how realistic is this? Maybe we should loop in Mwalimu. Just how practical and realistic is this? I mean, parents will tell you the pain and the difficulty that comes along with that, you know, accepting that, looking at the kind of future that you envision for your child, looking at what you have put up in terms of resources and in terms of energy and time in raising this child, and then this happens. You know very well that there's always a shift in regards to how things flow. I mean, just how do you look at them and say, well, with love, it is okay? As a teacher, you can, but then again, the emotional aspect that is incorporated in this, especially for the parents who have a connection, it can be something.
Absolutely. It is really upsetting, especially looking at some parents, the amount of resources they've invested in their children, in education, and a daughter gets pregnant, it is quite upsetting. I get the point that my colleague here is trying to push, that let us show them love. But on the other hand, they should also, we as a society, we should be very firm, because if you show love excessively, then you might perpetuate this particular culture. So there is need for firmness to be entrenched, especially by the parents. But then you look at a case where, for example, these girls who are giving birth, and then they are given exams on that particular day, those girls, you might not really be very harsh to them, because they have exams ahead of them. So, I mean, you just wait for them to do the exams, and then you cancel them. But there are some regions in this country where this thing is a norm. I mean, you cannot continue showing love to that kind of population. You need some stern action so that we contain this particular upsurge. Yes.
All right. We'll come back to you, and we were having a conversation here yesterday, and you know, again, out of research, you realize that some of these girls probably have not been treated to enough information that would probably be instrumental for them to, you know, avoid such scenarios before they get to that level. And equally, on the report, it speaks of a scenario where most of these teenage pregnancies are actually not upon consent. That sometimes it's out of defilement, and a child is defiled and they choose not to speak. A child is defiled and they choose to keep it to themselves. And the culprits, so to speak, are walking scot-free. Some of them are in school doing the examinations as expected. How do we strike a balance towards handling this? Knowing very well that also the culprits, or the individuals that have impregnated these girls, are equally human beings and they enjoy their rights. So upon consent, you also need to be, you know, lenient on how you handle them. And also, if there was no consent, there is also a radical approach that is probably needed that would go against the rights of these individuals.
What is the age of consent in this country?
We're debating to have it at 16, which is not so clear, so it stands at 18.
But consent for what? You know, Linda, fine, that is the law. But again, okay, we have girls who are getting pregnant, as you said, because of defilement. Now, and others, consent. I was reading an article about a teacher who was caught with a girl, and it was caught red-handed, pants down with a schoolgirl, and a teacher. I can imagine maybe it is your mathematics teacher, and I mean, a teacher is dating a student, and they agree to do it, then they call it consent. Maybe the girl is of the consent age, you see? So, well, I don't advocate for that. Others are defiled, yes, it is true. Now, for a girl to participate in sex and to get pregnant, it means either they were defiled or they consented, and when they are doing it unprotected, it means there is some sort of coercion. It can be money, yeah. Because when you are like you're bought, then you have no rights over what follows. So what do? We need enough sex education in our schools.
Is it not there, Molina?
It is there. Just before
is it not enough?
It is too little. If really the Minister of Education is doing it enough, we would be having minimal cases, because actually.
So is this for parents or for the Ministry of Education? Remember, you're the very same person who's spoken about the parents being absent. And I have personally gone through this curriculum. Well, I don't know whether there can be more that should be spoken about. Sex education in this case, so that at least we get our girl child, or our girls, or even the boys getting to know this. Maybe Molimo, you should tell us whether you feel like it is enough or more can be done in your own capacity. And do not overlook that aspect, that the very same culprits are the people who are close to these girls, people who are close to these boys, and teachers also have been named as culprits, so to speak.
First, Currently, we do not have a robust sex education curriculum, apart from the classics work where you learn about the reproductive system of a man and the reproductive system of a woman. But sex education as it is, what is sex, what are the consequences of sex, what is consent, that is not in the curriculum.
At what level should it start in the event that it's incorporated?
It should start from down there, such that when this child is growing up, he or she knows, I mean, what he or she can do has consequences. Because you find that in some areas, a student who is in even class 5, 6 is impregnated. Then on the issue about the culprits who perpetrate these particular acts, I think we have the Sexual Offences Act that outlaws having sexual intercourse with a child who is below 14 years. That is a defilement. And even there could be those students who are 18 years but they are still in school. The law still outlaws a teacher to say that, you know, she's 18 years so she consented. That one is not allowed. So as a cert, indeed, we need to profile these particular people. You look at, for example, the stories that have been covered by the media about these particular young children who are doing exams after giving birth. The media does not tell us who are the perpetrators, does not give a critique of the other side of these particular people who are doing this. So there is that particular gap. And then the mechanism of justice. We are talking about retributive justice. That is under the penal code, where you are taken to prison. But can you also explore other methods of justice, like restorative justice, giving it to the communities to enforce this particular discipline? Because the penal code might be alien to the communities, but is it possible the communities to come up with models of punishing these particular people?
All right, and even as they're punished equally, remember it's not, when we're talking about teenage and the fact that they are in school and maybe they need to be shown love and everything, it just doesn't stop at love. I know there's that care, extra and special care. As a mother, I'd tell you that it requires so much, you know, more than what is just on the surface area. And so just how best can we make the environment for these girls across school, home, society at large? Because then you realize that there are very many cases of suicide, that many culminate from such occurrences where, well, maybe the student is not comfortable being in school because of stigma, and even if they are, maybe they're not concentrating in totality. Some of them end up, you know, failing the examinations, and they see no more, you know, space for them in life, and they choose the hard way.
We need to create an enabling environment, society-wise, at school, at home. And by there, it starts at home. That's where society starts. Because family is the smallest unit of our society. And right from home, we need to teach them self-responsibility. We need to teach them to self-respect. We need to teach them self-esteem, to respect themselves. And tell them how to behave when out there, and how to ward off advances, unwanted advances from men, you know, from sexual predators. And we need to be very serious on that. Mothers should sit with have quality time with their daughters. They need to teach them sexuality. They need to teach them what to do when what happens. They need to take their parts very seriously, not casually. And also society-wise, as a society, we need to protect our daughters. What do you see when you see a daughter? What do you see? Some see us a sexual partner. I mean, others see wives. You are 13, someone is seeing a wife. You know, that is madness. We need to condemn evil. Because when the Bible says, you know, a parent train up a child in the way he should go. So once you set the child on that path, the child is going to keep in that path for the rest of their life. And then at school, we also need to create an environment, and you're talking about teachers, support staff, and the rest. They need to be they're on the front line fighting for their well-being, you know, at school. As I've told you, I mean, I went somewhere, and then a girl came to talk to me after a talk. You know, I'm a motivation speaker. And this girl was like, she's getting a lot of advances from teachers. Teachers are looking for that girl is not going to concentrate in class. So at the end of it all, this teacher wants a wife from this girl. Do you think when you are teaching mathematics, do you think she will listen? Atakuwa anaona stars. Nothing. So at school, this child needs protection. At site level, we should protect them. They are our girls. They are the future. At home, that is where it starts. When you lay a Robert's foundation at home, then she is good to go. She can build the society.
Well, that's a good way to probably say we are about to wind up. As we call it a short or call it a day, beyond zero pregnancy. How practical, how realistic, and how possible, and how can we work towards making it happen?
We need to have a multi-sectoral approach in this particular issue. If it is the school system, the teachers should play their part. Mwalimu is talking about a certain girl, I mean, teachers were making advances to her. That is quite unfortunate. I understand, you know, teachers are also human beings.
Okay.
But then there is
you should see my camera guy saying yes, 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 yes. No,
I'm also a human being.
I mean, we all are.
But I am self-disciplined.
Okay.
What
well,
do I see when I see?
In defense of the teachers,
Yeah, I'm saying that, I mean, you could find some cases where you are teaching in class, and then just as a human being, you can be attracted to a certain girl in that particular class, but that is not then a ticket for you to carry on, I mean, go to an extent of having an affair with that particular young girl. I think teachers should learn to restrain themselves accordingly. And then we also have the media as well to play its key role in emancipating the people, naming the perpetrators, and also even supporting these particular young girls who become pregnant. You have a case where these particular young girls are doing exams immediately after giving birth. You can imagine someone who has lost a lot of blood, not physically stable, mentally stable, being given an exam. That is a very bad curriculum. So is there a way that even you, the media, can advocate for these girls can do the exams later? After, yeah. It's not a must that they do it at that particular time. Yeah. Then we have the religious leaders. They should not bury their heads in the sand to the realities right now. So they should also play that role of emancipating the population as well. All
right. Well, in 1 minute, Johnstone, how then do we get to that level of beyond zero?
As parents, let us set our girls on the path to greatness. Let us impart in them values, self-dignity, self-respect. Let us teach them to be women of substance. Let us teach them the ways of God. Let us teach them values that are going to cushion them against sexual predators. Once you are empowered from within, you can face anything from without. Right. You can face anybody from without. You can look a man in the eye and tell them, "Come on, get a life. I know where I'm going, and you won't stand in my way." We need such girls, bold and courageous.
All right.
Oh
yes.
yeah.
Let's have our parents active in the lives, or guardians active in the lives of our girls and our boys too. They all have issues that they are going through, and you know, the transitional processes in terms of growth, in terms of moving from one generation to another, or transitioning to a different stage in life. It is important that you are active to help them out. Importantly, speak out when something heinous has been made upon you. Kindly speak out. There is no harm, in you going out there trying to seek help. I think it's a conversation worth having, and constantly having for that matter, until with that we get to that point where we say beyond zero teenage pregnancies, beyond zero, unnecessary pregnancy.